So, Mark, did you see that video of Fremont Street under construction? You could see them building the canopy, the roads, putting it all together. Kind of a transition from another time to the current one.
Yeah, I think Fremont Street before the Sphere was one of the most, if not the most unique things in Vegas that you didn't really see anywhere else, and it was ahead of its time and still really cool. But I love the view of a Caesar's Palace with the drive up. Doesn't it just seem more grand? I know it's got a lot more going on now, you know, people walking by, but just like driving up, it just feels more open and you can witness it all, and it's not like bits and pieces. You can see the fountains, all that stuff. I kind of wish it looked a little bit like that still.
Yeah, they've sort of covered it up and enclosed it and put more and more stuff there. It doesn't look like it. The cool thing is this guy says he has a bunch of VHS tapes that he's going to digitize from the 90s, sort of the golden era of Vegas for us. So I can't wait to see what else he comes out with.
The best thing is that like 30 years from now, we'll have good video instead of crappy VHS shaky all over. We'll have a lot of phone video we can look back at that you can actually see stuff.
It'll look terrible anyway to us 30 years from now.
True.
Big news of this week was that it was hot again. We broke the record, and we didn't just break the record, Mark. So the previous record was 117 degrees at the airport. They've been measuring these records since 1937, and we hit 120. So the previous record had been hit 5 times at 117, never had hit 118, never had hit 119, and we went all the way to 120.
I know, before I saw like the stuff we're going to talk about, I was going to ask you, like, for the show, can you go out and crack an egg on your driveway and see if it like cooks up and all that stuff? I'm sure you could do it out in the desert on a rock out there for sure, but I would just love to see like if your sidewalk or anything will you just drop it on there and see if it you know, cooks up.
It was brutally hot. The National Weather Service kind of got into the fun, as you kind of alluded to. They had an art project with crayons, and they did some other stuff, some baking of cookies. But it was so hot that the palm trees started catching on fire as well.
Yeah, that's an LA thing, isn't it? Like palm trees on fire. You guys are all fully California now.
Yeah, I just want to say 120 didn't feel good. A lot of people fighting, saying it's been hotter than that. This is the official temperature at the airport. They've been measuring it since 37. We don't really know before that if it was ever hotter than that, but I guess 3 degrees hotter than any day in the last 85 years or whatever is pretty bad.
Yeah, and the pools still look packed. I know you're in the water and it feels a little bit better, but I still wouldn't go outside during the day, the peak sun. I don't know how anybody's out there having a good time. You're just sweating, and even if you're in the pool water probably feels like bath water, and it's full pee. I don't know, man.
But it's a dry heat.
In the AC.
It's a dry heat.
Okay. Yeah, I love the guy that commented it a week ago. That's like, oh, 60 degrees in the Midwest is way hotter than 100. I know he's joking, but because of dry heat.
Yeah, there's nothing nice about 120 degrees now that I've experienced it here in Vegas. So I will just say that. So moving on to some other good news. Aria has been working on their new marquee, their new sign, the big screen out there for a few months now, and it's finally open. It opened for July 4th, and yeah, another screen in this area. We call this the Times Square of Las Vegas because there's screens everywhere. And recently, the screens on Harmon Corner have been upgraded, so it's all beautiful digital tech.
And it's a little bit underwhelming with everything we've seen from the Sphere, and we see these 3D type of, you know, screens and ads in Japan and other places. So if this was done 10 years ago or so, it would have been really cool, but now it just kind of loses its luster a bit. I mean, it'll add a little bit more lights. One of our favorite bars in the Waldorf overlooks that area, which is really cool. And if you haven't had a drink there, definitely stop in there at night and take in all the views.
You talked about filming stuff and how it looks, you know, bad 30 years later. It seems like these casinos are caught up in this tech upgrade where they have to keep upgrading their screens. And then, you know, even when they do it, they spend tens of millions of dollars probably. People aren't impressed because it's just a screen.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do with it. They had the flag waving, which is, it's okay, but we've seen, I mean, Resorts World has a thing on the side of its entire building. The Sphere, we see all these LED lights going up. Rio's improving stuff. Even the Strat with the light going up. It just seems like adding another screen doesn't really do it.
You're a tough customer on this one, so we'll move on to this next story, which I want to discuss because I think it's interesting. C-Note put out that COVID Vegas was the best Vegas. He said he was going to die on this hill. We've sort of alluded to this in the past on the show before. He's absolutely right. You know, this kind of reached out and talked to me. I do think that was the best version of Vegas. I sort of miss it. I get why there were some downsides. It wasn't all great, but it was empty, and that's something that you just don't get that often.
See, I'll disagree with you a bit here. I think it was the most unique period of Vegas for sure, at least in our lifetime. Just to see how empty things were. I think the clientele, the people that were there was different than normal too. It felt weird. Nobody was really there to gamble. Gambling sucked kind of, spaced out, wearing a mask, plexiglass everywhere. So it wasn't enjoyable in that aspect, but the streets were clear besides the scooter gangs. It was tough to get food at times, which was a little bit much, but you could get cool hotel rooms for cheap. So it was unique, but my favorite period was probably like 2009 to 2011, 12, somewhere in there, right after the Great Recession, where they were just rolling out comps. Everything was fully open. You could get dining easily. There was deals galore. I just feel like that was a better version of Vegas. Like everything was maximized and it was cheap.
Yeah, you make a great point. Economic downturns maybe produce the best version of Vegas because people aren't there and you get deals. And that's always a downside of having 150,000 plus rooms, is that when all of a sudden something happens and people aren't coming, the deals are there. But I'd be interested to hear what people out there have to say about it. Was that the best Vegas? Was Mark's version the best Vegas? Is the current version the best Vegas, or was it in the 1960s? I'm sure opinions vary wildly, but I do have some nostalgia now that we're a few years out from that period. And I'll always remember, I'm so glad that I was down there so much during those days because it's just too crowded now.
I do wish I would have flown more. I flew a couple times to go to Vegas for work for Circa opening and Resorts World and stuff like that. But it was everybody didn't know what was going on. And, planes were mostly empty if you could have traveled. But when you get to the place, half the stuff's not open or whatever. So it's different in that aspect. But it was the best time by far to fly. Middle seats empty, mostly rows empty. It was crazy.
Those were the days. Those were the days. So let's move on to Paris, or should I say Horseshoe, or the tower that they took from Horseshoe and put into Paris, the Versailles Tower. Now, you've been able to book rooms there for months now, and we've seen looks at the rooms. They look pretty nice. And, definitely a step up from what was there when it was part of Horseshoe. They have a little quirk where there's no place for the soap in the shower. But other than that, people have really liked the rooms. But one of the reasons they did this was to build balconies on the ends of the building with Bellagio fountain views. And they showed off those balconies with the Caesars Palace July 4th fireworks, what it's going to look like. And the rooms are now bookable. I think July 22nd is when you can stay in them. So get your balcony views on. I didn't have a chance to check out prices before we recorded, but I'm sure they're pretty expensive.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't open these up, like rush to get it done for 4th of July. I think that would have been a premium, people wanting that view. It would have been really cool, but they look great. I've said many times Paris is my favorite Caesars property. And I think it's, the best mid-tier property in Vegas, or at least my favorite. And it's kind of like under the radar a bit. I think this new tower, it's kind of a pain right now with getting to and checking all that stuff is a bit of a mess. But once they get that ironed out, I think this tower will be great. And, these will give Cosmo a little bit of run for their money. I don't think the room is as nice as Cosmo, but you have a balcony, which is kind of rare in Vegas. You have cool views. I think it's really going to be a selling feature and something that Caesars hasn't been able to offer. And now they can. So I think it's a good move, and I'm excited to see when people get in there. But the rooms look great, so I think it'll be a good option for people.
Imagine booking one of those rooms and getting the one on the lowest floor that just barely sees out over that CVS. That wouldn't be good. But I agree with you. These views are not really matched anywhere else. Cosmo definitely has fountain view suites with balconies, but it's a different angle. And this is right at the heart of the strip. You're staring straight across at the fountains. A great idea. I mean, whoever had the idea to move this tower, it's weird, it's clunky until they get the bridge built, which still isn't done yet. It's not all working right, but a few years from now, we'll forget that tower was ever part of Bally's or Horseshoe.
Be nice to the check-in person, even if you have to wait 3 hours like we've seen at Paris, so you don't get stuck. Could you imagine waiting 2 hours and then getting stuck with the worst balcony room?
No, it's happening to somebody. It always happens to somebody. As a reminder, we have our Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to our weekly after show, a lot of Behind Vegas, behind the channel, good stuff over there. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all of the information. And thanks to everybody who supports us over there. So another video that went around this week was the controversial ice that Fontainebleau uses in their bars. So basically, this is a piece of ice that takes up almost the entire glass. And it's obviously for alcoholic drinks, mixed drinks, where you're getting what, 1.25 ounce pours. And so it just sort of fills up the glass. But other people think they're sort of cheating people with this ice. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they know how drinks work. I mean, every drink's going to be like 1 to 2 ounces for the pour and then the mix. If it's in a small glass, then the cube would be smaller. It's in a big glass. It's for looks. I'll give them credit. having one big piece of ice is better than having a lot of small pieces because it doesn't get watered down as quickly. Some places will even upcharge you for this ice cube, so I don't know if that's included in the $21. I think it's, a good looking drink, premium ice. It's not going to water down your drink as much. I don't think there's any reason to really complain. It just is, that's how it works.
I agree. People find reasons to complain about everything. The only thing about this that looks not ideal to me is the stir action. You can't really stir it very much because there's not a lot of space in there. So if you like stirring your drink and clinging the ice and stuff, but I mean, as you said, there's plenty of bars that have these types of ice or big ice cubes that they even charge extra for. Keeps it colder longer. You don't get your drink watered down. So I think this is probably more of a win than a loss. And I don't know. Yeah, people complain about anything.
Yeah, I mean, you take that ice cube out, it fills up a small drink glass, which you probably would normally get that drink. It's all proportionate. It just looks cooler in a tall glass. That's the only difference. You're getting great ice. I mean, $21 is expensive, but that's kind of run of the mill in restaurants in Vegas.
So this next video is kind of fun, and it's Blackjack, which is your favorite, and splitting, which is your favorite, and doubling down, which is your favorite. So this influencer, he is at a high limit table. I think he has a total of $70,000 in by the time he's done with this. But basically he splits sevens, splits them again, gets another pair of sevens, but he can't split because the limit was 4 splits. He ends up doubling down, I think 1 or 2 of them. And then the dealer gets a 21. Oh man, what a painful series of events.
Yeah, at first look, it's red chips, so you think $5, and you're like, oh, $10 a hand, who cares? But it is, I think it's $5,000 chips, 2 on each one, some doubles, all that stuff. I know some people complain about doubling the soft 18 against the 5, but the book says to, and I just feel like anytime you split something more than once, it goes bad. I know you're supposed to. I've never had it work out in my favor. The dealer always pulls 20 or 21. Anytime I've split 3-4 times and had doubles, it always ends poorly. I was totally expecting this to work out exactly that way. Usually it's like they flip the 5 and the 6 is already underneath, and then you're like, okay, here it comes. But when you flip 15 and you've seen all these like 7s and 2s and stuff, you're like, there's got to be an 8, 9, 10 jack, something. And they hit that. It's rough, but it always happens.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you mess up the cards too. I wonder if there was nobody after him at the table. So the next person was the dealer, but you could mess up the cards potentially for the next person. You mess it up for the dealer. I don't know, but it's fun though. I have to imagine just splitting and how often do you get the opportunity to split that many times? And at that bet level, I don't think I would do it. But if it was a $10 bet, it would be a lot of fun to kind of do that over and over, double down, split. It makes the game fun, and it's not something that happens very often, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that's why people like the free bet blackjack game. They have it around here. I'm not sure if it's in Vegas or not, but they give you all free splits and doubles, so you automatically get it. The difference is you push if the dealer gets a 22, so there's the rub. But it's fun when you get these things, like you end up splitting stupid stuff just because you have better odds if you're splitting, and you get these long things out where you'll have like 3 splits and 2 doubles, and you only paid for the first bet. So it's pretty cool when that happens.
So what's the most you've ever been able to split? Have you ever been able to get to 4 different hands?
I think I've been to 4 once. I've been to 3 quite a few times with some doubles, but only 4 once. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's nuts with that much on the line. Cool video. Check it out. So something I've been thinking about this last couple weeks is used slot machines. Because kind of growing up in Las Vegas, it was a big thing, I think, for people to have vintage video poker or slot machines in their houses. And those were the old style real machines, so they weren't as complicated or expensive. And I know there's places like the Gambler's General Store here that used to sell them. But I was just looking at them this weekend, kind of just browsing, and I thought I would put it out there to everybody out there. Is there good places to buy used machines? It seems like some of these older electronic machines, the slots, you're looking at, as cheap as $700 to $1,000. But some of the newer video slots, they go up to like 10 grand if you want to buy one for your house. And that's used. That's a machine that's already previously been used. But it would be cool to have one of those fancy new video slots in your living room.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people out there. I've seen TikTok videos and stuff of people playing their favorite game at home. And my buddy, his dad had bought like an antique nickel machine with like the 3 reels, and you had to pull. There was no buttons or anything. And I sunk a lot of nickels into that thing. So it was kind of like a savings bank for them, or like a little piggy bank. Just kept putting nickels in, never won more than like 3 nickels back. But they had that thing forever and it never filled up. It was kind of crazy. So I'd probably prefer one of those type of antique machines. I think they're a little bit cooler. The video ones, I mean, you can probably just download an app on your, tablet or phone or something. It's not the same, but you can get it all without the money. So I wonder if that is why people don't seem to buy them as much.
Well, there's definitely a lot for sale, so I'm sure people do, and I'd love for everybody to chime in the comments. It seems like a lot of the companies that sell them are out of Ohio for some reason, but yeah, you can buy just about any machine. I sort of disagree with you. I was looking at some of the vintage video slots, like the ones from 10, 15 years ago, and I think one of those would be kind of cool to have because it's not,
Yeah.
the newer stuff that we have there, but yeah, some unique games and stuff. And just being able to kind of go there, play it, hit the jackpot. It's not the same as the vintage slots, but I think I would prefer that version over the old school vintage one. But I wonder how many people watching the show right now have a slot machine or a video poker machine in their house.
If there is a Hollywood Squares one for sale, that's what I played in college. It was like my favorite thing. I haven't seen one in decades, but that was such a fun like nickel game, but video. And the bonus was like you pick different things. It was a lot of fun. So I could see that one being in my house and having some fun with it.
Yeah, I can think of a ton of vintage video slot games that would be really cool to have. Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and get one. I don't know. I was sort of flirting with it this weekend, but I'd love to hear what everybody has to say. So more Mirage news as we get closer to closing. And we'll start with this. Love had its final show this weekend. They performed after all of these years, the final show. And it seems like the cast was celebrated by everybody. It was a good time, went off well. We're down a Cirque show.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I never went to the show. I'm not a big Beatles person, so it just never really spoke to me in that way, even though I love Cirque shows. I think, I watched a lot of the videos from the last show, a lot of cool effects. They kind of throw everything at you. So hopefully the performers find another job somewhere, or maybe they can reuse them for a different show. We've seen a lot of the Mirage people, the shows find other homes. I don't know that Cirque with the budget that they need will be as easy to find a home, but maybe they can do something smaller somewhere else or come up with something new. But so many talented people and, it's kind of tough to find, I would think, another role that's similar.
Yeah, hopefully they find roles everywhere else, but I don't think Love is coming back. I think Love is dead as a show. I'm sure there's some things with licensing and all of that stuff that's complicated with the Beatles, and I doubt that we'll see it anywhere else. It was definitely a show of an era. It was a great show. I had an opportunity to see it. I wish I got to see it one more time. My wife did. Fantastic show. A piece of history dies out. We're losing a lot of pieces of history over the next few weeks. This year has been a lot of history lost. But one good piece of news is progressives. So the way it works with these hotels is if they have these progressive jackpots that people have lost money and sort of paid into, they have to pay them out before they close. And because of that, Mirage is paying out $1.6 million from July 9th through the 13th. They have different days where they're doing kind of giveaways, 200,000 in guaranteed winnings on July 9th, 10th, and 11th, before bumping it up to 250,000 on the 12th and the 13th. Then they're taking a break, and then on the 16th, they'll have $100,000 in cash prizes. So basically this next week, tons of giveaways at Mirage.
Yeah, and we had a commenter in last week's video that brought this up, said they heard it, and I was like, oh, I hadn't heard that before. And I always kind of assumed the progressives were usually split across multiple casinos because we've talked about that, how oftentimes when you hit a progressive, it's from an outside company and they have to come in and pay it. So this is interesting to see and something that we don't normally come across. I don't remember hearing anything about it when the Trop closed. Do you?
Yeah, it's interesting because the Review Journal article talks about Nevada law that requires them to pay out these progressives. Riviera did something very similar before they closed. But at Trop, they said that they transferred the progressives to other Bally's properties. But in the Review Journal article, it says that because Hard Rock doesn't have any other Nevada casinos, they can't do it. So I don't know what Bally's did because, well, maybe up north to Lake Tahoe. They do own the property up in Lake Tahoe. So that could be what it was. They transferred them up there. Yeah, it's cool news, and it'll hopefully draw more people in there. Everybody should go down and see Mirage before she closes forever.
What if somebody just hits it naturally right before?
I think what they're doing, based on the way I read this, is that they're giving out prizes. Instead of the progressives hitting, they're taking that money and kind of handing them out as a giveaway.
Turning it off.
Yeah. So I think basically being in the casino and playing, you're going to have a chance to win. That's my understanding of it. Let me know if I'm wrong there. But they're just basically taking that pot and making sure they disperse it out. And that kind of keeps them legal and they get headlines.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to gamble in Vegas, if you're in Vegas anyway, you might as well, you get a little extra percentage on your side, a chance to win one of those things. So definitely worth checking out. And then you get to say goodbye to a great property and check it out one more time. So I think it's cool. They're doing it the right way, it seems like so far, even though I think they should have just worked on stuff and kept it open. but they're definitely, taking care of the people, it seems like, versus what we saw with the Trop at the end.
One thing we're seeing similar to the Trop at the end is the slot machines being turned off. I've seen a lot of videos. I haven't been down there. I will get down there this week, and I do plan to stay in the hotel before it closes. But apparently a lot of the machines are already down, and they're already sort of shutting the place off a little bit, which is sad. I don't know why that happens, why the machines get shut off early, but we saw the same thing at the Tropicana, and maybe it's contractual because some of the machines aren't owned by them. Whatever it is, it's not going to quite feel as lively as it did, a few weeks ago, a few months ago. You'll sort of notice that they're shutting it down, but you have about a week left, so go see it.
Still blows my mind that they were doing status matches like 3 months ago.
Hey, you got to try what you got to try until you try something else. So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about today, the weather, Aria's marquee, Mirage and all their giveaways, everything else we discussed. Leave a comment. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.